Good afternoon again, and welcome to the Asset Management with Jira Service Desk webinar. My name's Alan Reynolds, like Dick said, and I'm a pre-sales system engineer here for RightStar, specializing in the Atlassian suite. So we're going to be spending, like Dick said, 40 minutes or so together today, starting with some slides around the Atlassian solution and Jira Service Desk, and we'll follow that with a live demonstration of that solution. And again, like Dick said, we'll be recording this, so if there's others in your organization you want to see this who weren't able to attend, we'll be sending out a link to that. And let me mention one more time, if you have questions, please do put that in the Q&A box, and we'll get to those at the end of the live demo. So let's talk a little bit about Atlassian and Jira. So Atlassian is the vendor who provides the Jira Service Desk solution. Atlassian was fairly unknown until they went public a few years ago. But now they've grown exponentially over the last 5 years or so, both in company size and in revenue. And at last official count, there were more than 90,000 organizations, including 80 of the Fortune 100 that were using Atlassian software, including Citigroup and eBay and Coca-Cola and NASA and Tesla. So the Atlassian solution is really a purpose-built suite of software, which is modularized for ease of use and flexibility. But they combine together to make a well-thought-out solution that can support your organization from DevOps through enterprise service management and even into business project process and task management. And the various pieces of that Atlassian solution, like Jira Software and Confluence and Bitbucket and Bamboo and Jira Service Desk, all combine up to make that end-to-end solution to support the full application lifecycle. So today we're specifically going to be focused on the Jira Service Desk piece of that solution, but I'll also mention other integrated pieces of it, such as Confluence, as we go along. So teams of all shapes and sizes really have transformed the way that they're delivering IT services using Jira Service Desk to give their customers the best service experience. In fact, just since it launched about 8 years ago or so, more than 25,000 teams are using the Jira Service Desk solution. And these are small and medium-sized teams all the way up to large enterprise teams. But really, the one thing that sets Jira Service Desk apart from the competition is that mission that they have to provide an effortless user experience. So everyone loves how incredibly easy it is to use and set up Jira Service Desk. In fact, independent reviewers have rated Jira Service Desk not only easiest to use, but shortest time to set up and easiest to maintain among similar solutions. So Jira Service Desk includes ITSM or ESM, we're calling it now, workflows for service request management and incident management and problem management and change management and more. And it's also Pink Verify certified. So it's the purpose-built solution for IT and service desk teams that provides your teams with really everything they need right out of the box, including workflows for service request and problem and change and incident. It really lets your customers have a way to ask for help while you support your agents in resolving incidents and requests faster than ever. And it ultimately scales to meet the growing needs of any service management team, enabling those teams to deliver world-class service. But specifically along the lines of ITIL, can Jira Service Desk support the ITIL needs of your organization? You bet it can. As I mentioned, Pink Verify is ITIL certified Jira Service Desk. Now, as many of you know, ITIL is a gold standard for teams around the world. Really an integrated set of best practice processes for delivering IT services to customers. And its main objective really is to maximize the value to the business by aligning IT resources with business needs. So many of those Atlassian customers are adopting Jira Service Desk to address their organization's specific ITIL needs. And it's really super flexible because it leverages the power of Jira, so it offers a great starting point where IT teams can adopt best practices right out of the box and then move on from there. And again, because ITIL is important and Atlassian knows that, several years ago they worked really hard to get it ITIL certified. And it's actually been Pink Verify and Axel is certified for the processes of request fulfillment and incident management and problem management and change management, like I mentioned. Now, to attain that sort of certification, any software vendor has to satisfy 100% of the mandatory criteria for the process, whatever it is, being verified. And Jira Service Desk was assessed against ITIL-compatible product features and terminologies and workflows and functional requirements and other criteria. And ultimately, that certification is just a reassurance that the product is definitely capable of supporting all your ITIL process needs there. And it really stands above the other vendors in that ESM, ITSM market because of its adaptability that it allows you in implementing and streamlining your support processes, and really offers a lean path to, or a path rather to lean ITIL or lean ESM. So let's take a closer look at a few of these processes real quick to understand how Service Desk supports ITSM. So Atlassian really thinks of ITSM as a way to serve and build modern IT teams, starting with collaboration. Being able to collaborate seamlessly while driving end-to-end visibility is really the key goal there. And agility, by applying practices and principles of Agile, you can modernize those ITSM practices. And then last but not least, around value. It's really being able to realize value and not just efficiency. So Jira Service Desk has all those things you need to help you prioritize and resolve requests faster, just right out of the box, with SLAs and agent queues and the customer portal and much more. And also provides automation rules and approval workflows, which can cut down on manual work to help you deliver support faster. And you can relate those so in service management specifically, service request management, the process of service request management, as we know, IT receives a wide variety of requests from customers, and those range from simple requests to like a new mobile device or a whole software installation. But it's really the size and frequency and low-risk nature of these kinds of requests that make them appropriately handled by a separate process rather than the incident process or the change management process. So ITIL defines this process to handle those kinds of requests as request fulfillment or service request management. Now, Jira Service Desk provides a fast and efficient way to implement an ITIL-based service request catalog, providing best practice ITIL workflows that are needed to support requests that require approval, and a whole nother workflow for requests that don't, right out of the box. And that self-service customer portal makes it easy for customers to request help and track the progress on their issues. And then, of course, when Atlassian's collaboration solution called Confluence is added, I mentioned that a moment ago. Confluence is Atlassian's wiki-style collaboration documentation tool that has many, many uses, but one of them is to pair it with your Service Desk to make a searchable knowledge base with articles that can deliver even greater value and that are really simple to search. Another process here is around incident management. So the Service Desk team provides the first line of response for incidents and a single point of contact for customers to communicate with IT. And according to ITIL, the aim of incident management is just to restore any disruption of service. And that would include monitoring any condition that has the potential of resulting in a reduced quality of service. And so Jira Service Desk provides best practice ITIL workflows and fields around that to help you combine all the great features in the tool, like dynamic queues and collaboration and proactive SLAs. You end up with a service desk solution that empowers IT teams to resolve incidents super quickly. And speaking of Confluence, I'll say a bit about knowledge management as well, as a key part of the ITIL model, providing both customers and staff with correct and up-to-date information. So for that, Jira Service Desk pairs with Confluence, like I mentioned, to provide a knowledge base, and users are able to search articles in the portal and more with more targeted and confidential or technical information, maybe that you don't want to expose to customers, made available in a separate space, maybe for a support staff knowledge base. That might contain playbooks or post-incident reviews and those kinds of things that are also supported by Confluence. And in problem management, while incident management is around finding the shortest path to normal service, problem management really, on the other hand, is about finding the underlying causes of incidents and the best resolution and prevention of future incidents that way. So Jira Service Desk provides a path for IT teams to implement problem management and really make it a logical extension of that incident management process we've already talked about. And I'll mention change management because every organization faces the challenge of maintaining a constantly changing IT infrastructure. So ITIL provides also a set of best practices for change management that makes it easier for IT teams to prioritize and manage changes effectively while still minimizing the impact and risk to the business. So change management is then defined as the process to understand and minimize these risks while making changes to those systems. Now, one of the things that change management can leverage also in Confluence is a team calendars for Confluence, which I'll mention in a minute. We'll show you a little bit of an app for Confluence that can be used as the ITIL forward schedule of changes in order to plan and coordinate an appropriate time there to implement that change. Jira Service Desk handles incident management and problem management and change management and service request management beautifully right out of the box with knowledge management thrown in there. But those practices really at their heart all require a configuration management database to be as effective as possible. Because whether these processes are, all of them really, are usually related to objects in your environment of some kind, whether that be a laptop or a location or a business service. So to help support that, there is a rich ecosystem that Atlassian has provided us called the Atlassian Marketplace, where Atlassian and other vendors can provide pre-built add-ons and integrations and extensions for the system. There's over 1,000 of those that are available today in the Atlassian Marketplace that are compatible with Jira Service Desk. Which lets you extend the power of Jira Service Desk with those kinds of add-ons and integrations to offer analytics and customer workflows and more. But one of the most popular ones of those Jira Service Desk integrations there in the marketplace is Insight Asset Management for Jira. So every IT organization has varying asset and CMDB needs, but many of Atlassian's Jira Service Desk customers look to Insight Asset Management for Jira, an app from the marketplace by Mindville. Now, enterprise customers are choosing it to meet asset and configuration management needs as well as small teams because it's so flexible. Insight what Insight provides really is the ability in Jira to relate those configuration items or assets to incidents and problems and service requests and changes to allow IT staff to understand the impact of systems and services on those kinds of tickets. Insight provides a way to implement a modern CMDB that allows IT teams to define asset applications and service structures that best fit their needs. It offers a really great level of flexibility when compared to other vendors as well because of that flexible schema that it's built on to let it match business needs as needed. And it provides dependency mapping and impact analysis and automation and workflow integration into Jira software as well as Jira Service Desk. So let's take a look at that and dive right in. Let's move into the live demonstration portion there of our time today, where we'll take a look at Jira Service Desk and Insight Asset Management. And now let me just remind you again, if you do have any questions, just feel free again to put those in the Q&A box, and we'll take some time for questions at the end. So I will share out my desktop here, and we should be able to see my desktop. So before we really dig into anything and show, I just want to take a moment to talk about roles. So we're going to specifically be looking at the Jira Service Desk solution today. And in addition to the other solutions they provide, Jira Service Desk's licensing is a little bit different. So there's really two roles in Jira Service Desk. It comes down to an agent role and a customer role. Customers in the Jira Service Desk application can interact with the system through the customer portal or through email to submit issues and update existing issues. And in the portal, they can search knowledge across those Confluence pages that we talked about. Agents, on the other hand, are the folks that work in an agent interface where they have access to more information and can do all the other stuff in the system, opening tickets for other people and transitioning them along their life cycle and conferring with backline and all that good stuff. So for our demo today, I wanted to sort of take things from the perspective first of a customer and see what kind of what that experience is over in the customer portal from a customer perspective. Now, those customers are an unlicensed role, so you can have as many of those as you need. Now, they do have to have accounts, but they're not included in licensing. It's really only the agents that are licensed. So over in that customer side of things, I'm going to switch to, from my Chrome browser here, to a Firefox browser where I'm logged into the Jira Service Desk customer portal as a little demo user here. I've named Patsy Portal. We'll take a look at her little profile here. So I can see this is Patsy Portal that's logged in here to my Jira Service Desk customer portal. So you could see here, of course, we've got options for logos and colors and branding and that sort of thing. So you can customize the system in that way to a look and feel that it's a little bit more like the rest of the things you might be doing. There are even some add-ons in the marketplace that can provide you more options around that. But here in the portal, Patsy can really do three things, and we'll start with the first thing. She can search knowledge across that Confluence knowledge base we talked about. So maybe Patsy can search for network here and be provided with a list. Oops, if I type it right, a list of knowledge base article here around maybe that keyword network that might provide her with some information that she could use. Ultimately, when used with a knowledge base, Confluence is shown to deflect 45% of incoming issues. So that's the idea here, is to be able to give Patsy enough information that she maybe doesn't need to open another ticket for the service desk to have to ingest and deal with, but instead could help herself. Or maybe these knowledge base articles help her understand how to submit a request or what to expect when she does or those sorts of things. But I'm going to drill down into this first one here, network issues. And what we'd be looking at now is a Confluence page over in the paired up Confluence space with this particular Jira Service Desk portal that would give Patsy a text and graphic and even video rich article here that she can review and take steps. And I don't know, maybe she found out her Ethernet wasn't plugged in right or something, and she can resolve this issue herself. She can provide feedback down here at the bottom around that being helpful, and that gets rolled up into some reporting that can help you keep your knowledge base up to date and fresh. So maybe Patsy's resolved one of her issues here herself directly in the portal with some information, but maybe she does need to make a couple of new issues here for the service desk. We'll do a couple around that pertain specifically to asset management. So let's search first for laptop here, because we'll say Patsy's got some new job function and she needs a new laptop because her old one's too old or something. Now, when I search for that, I can see some knowledge base articles here about that, but I also can see request types down here at the bottom, such as this request new hardware option, which is what I'll choose to request a new laptop for Patsy, as it notes here. But I wanted you to see that I could search for that, or if I close my search here, we can just choose that from the options at the bottom of the screen. So really what you have below that search bar is a list of the various requests that Patsy can submit here in the system and the various categories that I've grouped those into. Now, ultimately, these categories down the left side of your screen, common requests and login and accounts and devices, are fully configurable. And I should make a point here before we go too much further that the entire system is fully configurable. So what we're looking at here today is what I've configured for some fictitious demo company that Patsy's an employee of. But this portal and your portal would be configured to your specific requests because the system can be configured to have whatever colors and logos and branding and names. Maybe you would like to call the help center level something different, or maybe you'd have a different message here in the banner, or different request type categories, or different requests. Or in this case, as I drill down into this, different fields on a request, because all that's configurable. One thing before I do drill down into this request new hardware option, I wanted to show you that the categories of requests here are really just labels on the different request types, and that enables a given request type to show up in more than one category. So this request new hardware request type has a common request label on it, but it happens to also have a devices label on it there. So it shows up in that category as well down here under request new hardware. So no matter how Patsy gets to that, whether she searches for it or chooses it from any number of the different categories it might appear under, as she clicks into that, she is brought to a form here that again is a fully configurable form. I've decided in my fictitious demo system that for new hardware requests, we're going to ask Patsy for this information. But again, this is fully configurable. You could add any out-of-box fields here that you want to, and you can add as many custom fields, pretty much any different type to the system as you'd like, and add those here as well. So we'll say Patsy needs a new laptop here. So let's fill out this request. We'll say I need a new laptop. And you notice here as I begin typing there in that summary field, I am presented with a list of knowledge base article suggestions here as well. Now this can be targeted down to a specific set of knowledge base articles. So maybe I just want to show things around hardware here. I could also, as we'll see in our next request, just turn this off altogether for a particular request so that we don't suggest knowledge base articles as someone enters an issue. But we don't need those, so I'll dismiss them. I'll say maybe, my old one is too slow, and maybe I'd provide more justification there. I've also added a field from our CMDB. I want to be sure to show you this because what Patsy is requesting here is a new piece of hardware that would be in the CMDB, but we're asking her also if this is replacing something she currently has to specify that. And in this case, it's replacing her old laptop. But notice I'm able to select as Patsy here in the portal from the items in the CMDB that are directly related to her. So I can see she's got some sort of keyboard and a very old iPhone, a laptop that we're going to choose here to be the one she replaces, as well as a printer. So I'm going to say this is the piece of equipment that we're going to replace with this particular request. And if I had an attachment here, I could add that. I'm also able to just do a quick screenshot and paste right here without even having to save that as an intermediate image object and go find it, which is a real useful feature. And maybe we'll say that she's got a high priority on this one because, I don't know, maybe her new job started last week and she just finds she cannot do it with her old laptop. So we would fill out whatever fields here on your customers would fill out whatever fields here that you would want to put on these forms for them to submit new issues for your service desk. Before I submit that, I do want to show you an option here at the bottom that you can enable or disable in your system to allow Patsy to say when she submits a new request if she'd like to keep that private just to herself, or if in this case we'll share it with Acme. Acme is an organization I have put her in. So you are able to group your customers into what they call organizations, and that lets folks, when they submit requests in the portal, to choose to share those with other folks in their organization. So maybe Patsy's submitting this request for her team, or she's going to be out of the office for a few days and needs someone to follow up on it. By sharing that with her team, other folks on her team are able to get notifications about that issue and see that new ticket in their portal as well. So I'm going to click Create here, and we'll get that ticket created, and we can see all the information Patsy provided here in the new view of our ticket, and we can see our new ticket number here. 371 has just been created. So let's pop out and just do one more real quick. We're going to submit a different kind of request this time. That last one was a bit of a service request where I'm asking for something that I don't have. Let's follow an incident sort of a model here next and report some sort of system problem. So I'm going to report an incident here using this report a system problem request type I've created. And we're going to say here that Patsy's having trouble getting to her payroll pay information through the link on her intranet that her company's put there. Now that's a link to an ADP payroll system, but she always gets to it from her corporate internet. So she's going to say that her ADP is not working there on the ADP is not working there on her corporate internet, and when she tries to navigate there, she gets a 404 error or something like that, let's say. So she can record that. And of course, maybe we would also want Patsy to be able to. Actually, let me do one thing here real quick. Um, oh, well, I'll tell you what. I get a 404 error. Sorry about that. We'll go ahead and type it again. So she would provide whatever information here you would need her to. But on this one, I wanted to show you again some options from the CMDB. So we're asking Patsy here, if she can, to let us know what business service is related to the problem that she's submitting so that we can better target this and send it to the right people or that sort of thing. So she could select from a list of business services here. And again, she's looking directly into our CMDB. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the company intranet as the affected business service, and I'll leave the rest of this the same and go ahead and click Create. Now, Patsy has submitted 2 issues here in Search Knowledge. The other thing I mentioned she can do is find and update existing issues, and she can do that up here with her Request button, where she can get to a list of previously submitted requests. So she could come to this screen and search by status or maybe by who created the issue or a particular request type or a keyword. So maybe she needs to get back to that ADP request. She could simply search for that. She could do the same thing with her laptop request. And again, there we go. And get right back to that new request. So maybe she forgot to tell us on that laptop that she needs this ASAP. This ASAP. She can have a conversation back and forth inline in comments that way on existing issues with the assigned agent or the assigned approver if maybe this needed approval. Approvals are fully supported in Jira Service Desk. But let's go ahead and leave this customer experience now that we've seen how to search knowledge and submit issues and update them. And we'll toggle over here to my agent interface, where I'm logged in as myself. So here in a browser back in my Chrome window, I'm logged in as an agent. And when an agent logs in, they land on a dashboard. And it's a configurable dashboard made up of a set of gadgets that are visual representations of data in the system. I've got one here showing some agent broadcast messages that I'd like my agents to know of some voice service outage we're experiencing, and a link to our shift pass down log, and a link for this week's team outing in our lunch menu. I've got one here showing some SLAs that are about issues about to miss SLAs, and a list of things that I've recently looked at, a list of things assigned to me, the activity stream showing here Patsy's new tickets that she submitted, and bar charts and pie charts and heat maps and bubble charts. Ultimately, dozens of gadgets you can configure to show just the data in the system that you want to, which is a great source of reporting here in the system. So once an agent logs in and gleans whatever information they might need to here from the dashboard, I could, for example, drill right into one of Patsy's issues that was maybe assigned to me or here in the activity stream if I'd like. But what I want to show you is the agent view of the projects that's paired up with that portal that Patsy was using. So the way Jira is organized, every issue that Patsy submits from the back end or that an agent might create belongs to a container or a workspace they call a project. And you can get to any of the existing projects that you have access to from your projects menu at the top of the screen. Now we're going to choose this project that is related to that portal that Patsy was using so that we can see her tickets and interact with them. And I'll go ahead and click on that now to navigate to that project. So when you do navigate to a Jira Service Desk project, you're initially brought to your list of queues. Now, queues are just a configurable way to slice and dice through work in your project to get you down to a list of issues that someone needs to work on. But they're fully configurable. They can be named whatever you'd like, and they can show whatever issues from that project that makes sense to show. For example, I've got one here that I've titled Agent Broadcast that contains those same 4 issues of a type broadcast here that I created in my system to pass some information along to my agents. I've got a queue here that just shows any open issue in this particular project, or maybe things assigned to me, or incidents. Maybe we see this new one from Patsy that came in, or service requests, things recently resolved. Ultimately, you can have queues here in a project however you would like them to support the business that you need to do. But however we get down to them, an agent could find the new issues that Patsy submitted here inside the project and begin to work them. So I'm going to drill down into this first one here at the top. We see that in my all open queue, I do see this new one that came in from Patsy around a laptop. Excuse me. So let's drill down into that one. And what I notice, first of all, here when I'm viewing my ITSM ticket 371 now that Patsy also saw in the portal is that I can see a lot more information here than Patsy could. First of all, I can see that her request new hardware option there on the back end maps me to a service request here. In the portal, the request new hardware type maps me to a service request I've decided here in the back end. And it'll always be that the type of issue here that you determine the work is going to be, that it'll determine the workflow that ticket will go through. As I click here on the View Workflow link, you can see a pictorial representation of that workflow, and these are fully configurable as well, but they allow you to define the states an issue can be in and all of the allowed transitions between them, as well as what happens on those transitions around maybe locking them down so only certain people can make a transition to maybe do an approval or a rejection, or maybe we want to update a field on a transition, or maybe we want to notify someone that that's happened. Very powerful workflow engine there in Jira to provide for all those things. So I can see Patsy has provided this link to her current laptop, and I know that she wants this new one because she said she needs this ASAP in a comment I can see. So I'm going to go ahead and choose to move to my first status here, and I'm going to choose this in progress transition, which will I can use to assign it to me, and this could be automated, but I'll go ahead and choose this option. I could also assign it to any of the other agents in my service desk this way. And I'll get Patsy off a quick note here to let her know I've got this using some out-of-box functionality called canned responses that'll let me choose from a list of canned responses I've created here. And this one just letting Patsy know I've got this and including her name here. And I'm going to go ahead and choose to complete that transition to move to in progress, which sent Patsy that update here. It moved my status to in progress, and I'm now assigned to this ticket. And you'll notice that one of my SLAs has now also been met. So SLAs are an important part of this. And you'll notice for service request, I've defined an 8-hour resolution and a 4-hour response time for service request. On our incident in a minute, you'll notice I've set those differently. Those are fully configurable, and you can have whatever kind of SLAs you want, name them whatever you want, and time them from whenever to whenever. So now that I've got this in progress, I need to go get Patsy a laptop, and I can see her existing one here. But what I want to show you is how to drill down into the CMDB. So this is where our Insight Asset Management app comes along. And when you do install that in your system, you get a new menu item at the top of your screen here that will allow you to get to all of that functionality inside Insight. Now, I'm going to show a list of all of the Insight object schemas, they call them, that I have created here in my system. You'll notice I have many. I have access to many here because I'm an administrator in my system, but you would only have access to whatever data here that you're permitted to see based on roles and permissions, because just like in Jira, Insight is built on a permission-based object model here so that you can restrict permission as needed. Now, I'm eventually going to drill down into my object schema I've called CMDB here, but I just want to show you one I've called generic here to show you some of the power of Insight. So I'm going to drill down into this Insight object schema that I've called generic. And ultimately, what Insight allows you to do, and maybe I'll go back one screen to say this, what Insight allows you to do is add a database of databases to Jira. So you can really look at this that way. I've got a list of sort of databases they call object schemas, and I can drill down into any one of those, maybe my generic one, and see what tables and rows and columns I have in my database, let's say. We just use different terms for it here. Insight calls this an object schema, and they call each one of the types of objects you could have in the schema an object type, and specific instances of those as they're created, they call them objects. So we'll see how this maps to a CMDB in a moment, but I just wanted to show you an example of how flexible this is and how it can be really used for anything, although the CMDB is a very popular use case for it. What I want to show you here is under my Attributes tab on my Object Type A, I've cleverly named it, I'm going to show you the list of attributes I've added here to this object that people could fill out when they're creating new objects of this type. I've named some attributes here, 1 through 19, excuse me, and made them of type text and Boolean and integer and float and date time, just to show you the different kinds of field types you can have here, as well as my attributes a little lower here in this particular object type in my sample schema here are actually relationships to other object types. So my attribute here on my object type A is really related to one of my object types over in B. So as I go to look at the objects in my system here for this object type A, I can see over here in these attributes links to object types of other kinds. So this system that you can do this in is what we use to support the CMDB. And I'll show you a much more familiar example here as I navigate to the CMDB object schema, which now looks just like the one I was looking at, but should look a lot more familiar with the IT service management, asset management kinds of things you might be dealing with, like hosts and network interfaces and application services and patches and business services and cost centers and locations and all that sort of thing. So here in my CMDB, I've got a full layout of all the items in my configuration management database around specific assets in my system, as well as how they fit together into business services. And for the moment, I'm going to look here in this particular list of hosts to find Patsy a new laptop. So I see the one that's assigned to her here, and I see one that's decommissioned and too old, and I see several that are active, but I do see one in inventory that I can choose for her. So I'm going to navigate into that and show you real quick that Insight keeps a full audit log of anything that's happened to the ticket, or to the asset, to this object, on what date and time a user changed what attribute from what value to what value. I can also see any related Jira issues over here, like, for example, the recycle laptop issue that put this one back in inventory. So I know this one's good for Patsy, and I'm going to edit that. I'm going to take it out of inventory, and I'm going to show that it's, let's see, we'll show that it's in service. And I'm going to assign it to Patsy here real quick by just entering her name, and I'm going to save that. Now I've updated that CMDB entry, and so everyone knows that this is hers now, and I'd go grab this off the shelf and configure it for her. I'd probably also go back and pick up her old one and come update her existing record here in the CMDB so that we can keep track of that one we're taking back from her as well. But once I've delivered that, configured and delivered that item to her, I can come right back to my issue that Patsy had submitted here, and we can choose to go ahead and resolve that. I could communicate with her in comments if I need to verify that, but I'll go ahead and say that we're done. And when we resolve it, we do provide a resolution. That's a configurable list here, but I'll just select done. And I could comment with Patsy, to let her know more about this as I resolve that issue, but I'll choose not to at this time. Now that I've completed that issue and resolved it, if I have surveys enabled, Patsy would get a survey from the system with a configurable question and a 5-point scale she can respond to that'll help make sure that we're giving really good service. So let me just dig into this other one we opened for Patsy here. This ADP is not working on the internet, and we'll say maybe I get this new ticket as an agent here, and I can see that she says it's around corporate internet and that ADP is not working. I can also see that I've got some different SLAs here. I've got only a 2-hour response time and a 4-hour resolution time I've defined for incidents in my system. So maybe the first thing I want to do is get started on this thing. So I'll go into an investigation mode here and begin to assign this to me and work on this incident. But maybe I don't have a lot of experience with this. So I'm going to reach out to a colleague down here in comments and see what I should do. At any point on any issue, you can come down and mention a colleague. Like maybe I'll ask Adam here, what do I do here? And instead of sharing that with the customer as I've been doing with Patsy, I'm going to just choose to comment internally so only agents could see that comment. But because Adam's been mentioned here, he'll specifically be sent a link in an email that he can follow back into the system to reply. And maybe Adam tells me, you know what, we've got tons of issues around ADP. This is not an isolated incident Patsy's having. So he wants me to open up a problem request to have that researched. So I'm going to choose from my More menu here to create a linked issue, and I'm going to choose to create a problem in my system as opposed to the other types I've defined. And I'll leave the defaults here, but you notice anytime I create a new issue, I get a little pop-up here with a link showing that I can click into to drill down into that issue. But because I've created a linked issue, I now have a permanent link here to my new problem 373. And if I drill down into that link, and I'm now on problem 373, I can see that I have a related link back to that incident, so I can see a full picture of what's going on here. Now, putting on my problem management hat, I probably would go ahead and begin to review this problem, and maybe I'd want to go ahead and link the other ADP issues that I know exist in my system to this same problem so that I can have a full picture of what's going on. I can come to this Add button on my Issues link, and I can just search real quick for any ADP issue that we've got, and I could just choose to link all of them, for example, to this issue, so that I now have a full list of all those incidents that relate to this particular problem. And maybe I'd also want to go out and see what is going on with my particular internet service, where that problem is. And maybe what I am able to find out is that we've got a bad URL on our internet service. So I want to update our web page here on our company intranet servers. So those are the ones I want to link to this ticket because that's where that work needs to be done. That's where that problem is. So I'm going to edit this particular ticket, and I'm going to choose in my configuration item field here that I've added to the system to come out and search. And I can get to any of those items we saw over in our CMDB and relate it. But what I want to do right now is just relate those two intranet servers that we found, that intranet server A and B here, to my problem request, so that I have a full picture of where this problem is, and I can begin to move forward with that. I also might want to come down and create a knowledge base article with a workaround in the meantime while we get this fixed. But I can also begin to create a change here. And I'm going to do that by creating one last linked issue. And this time, instead of creating a problem, I'm going to get us a change request going. And again, we get our pop-up here with our link to our new change request. But I also now have a permanent link down here to my change request, 374. And again, as I drill down into that, a link back to that problem so that I can see that relationship and notice that my service and my configuration items have moved with me right here, been copied right here to my change, so that my folks executing this change will know what to do. So this one has a more complicated workflow, happens to. We won't work all the way through this today because we've seen how to work through a workflow. But one of the important things you need to do when you're beginning to plan a change is when to schedule it. So I wanted to show you using the Confluence team calendars app from the Atlassian Marketplace, a way to manage that with an ITIL forward schedule of changes. I've added a link to my project shortcuts to one of those calendars. So when I open that up, and I log in, probably should have done that. I'm now looking at a calendar that really depicts my changes that I've got in my project over there in a calendar format. So I can see I've got a Windows 10 upgrade that we've got going on, and some changes that have happened in previous weekends and some coming up this weekend, which might be a little full. Maybe we have something that conflicts with this particular change. Maybe we'd want to go ahead and schedule it for the following weekend instead. So that can really help you organize from a schedule perspective how you'd want to handle those changes. And then, of course, as you work through that change workflow, you would finish this on out. As that's resolved, we could come back to our problem and verify with all of our related incident owners here that everything's been resolved and close out all those records as well. So in that way, we can use this asset information right from Insight throughout all of those ITSM workflows to be able to specify what that issue, what that ticket is about. And then from the perspective of that item, whether it's business service or a configuration item or an affected device, you can see all those related Jira issues over from the CMDB to be able to see a full life cycle of the tickets that have been logged against a particular CI, for example. Now, one thing I will show you real quickly here is some reporting around that's just out of box here in Jira Service Desk around workload and how we're doing on SLA goals. I'm not doing great here in my demo system with only 20% first response. That satisfaction survey, if folks fill them out, the results are available here, and you can see exactly the rating they gave you and any comments they added, and even drill right down into the issue they provided it on if you need to take some action or maybe congratulate someone on a job well done. We've got knowledge-based article usage and effectiveness around that, and as well as custom reports down here. And from your issues search menu, you're able to get to any of those records, those issues in your system that you'd like, and even search by related assets to those tickets if that's something that you'd want to do. So that's what I had to show you today from a Jira Service Desk around asset management. I guess I'll check back with Dick now, and let me stop sharing this screen, and we'll go back to our. Let's see, we'll go back to our. There we go. I think I got it now. So I guess it's time for some questions. Dick, I'm not sure what came in there, but it looks like we have a few more minutes left to discuss.
Yeah, great job, Alan. So there are some questions here, and let's just start with the questions. The first one is does it integrate with Jira Cloud then? And so I think the answer is yes, right?
The answer is definitely yes. Yeah. So Atlassian is moving in that cloud direction, that SaaS direction, like most of the software vendors are these days, because that's where the need is and the desire is. To mirror that, Mindville, the folks that produce the Insight app for the marketplace, introduced a cloud version of that late last year and are continuing to improve it. Its roadmap for being fully functional in the cloud is over the next year or so, but there are great pieces in there in use as well. The ability to all of that data modeling that we saw is available in the cloud. The ability to relate those to tickets, the ability to see tickets from the asset and assets from the ticket, all that kind of stuff is available in the cloud now as well.
Okay. And next question is, does it integrate with SCCM? Again, I think the answer is yes, right?
The answer is yes, yeah.
Okay.
So I mentioned those schemas. There are some free apps in the marketplace that Mindville provides, in addition to the Insight Asset Management app. So once you've got Insight installed, you can add some of these other apps that are just free companion apps with that. And one is an SCCM integration app that allows you to map that SCCM data into a schema and keep it regularly updated based on that. So that is fully supported.
Okay. Next question is there a network scanner to grab other items like network printers, and can you scan barcoded assets into the program and link it?
Those are both good questions as well, and frankly, if I'd paid a little bit more attention to my script, I would have hit both of those. Yeah, you bet. You bet. So Insight actually provides a tool, a companion tool to Insight Asset Management called Insight Discovery that will, it's an agentless tool, or can be used with an agent if you need to get across a firewall or something. But that will survey your network and populate that CMDB. You can also do that from other discovery tools as well, because there's a great import function that'll allow you really to bring data in from anywhere, from a database, from a flat file, from an integration of another kind. And then from a barcoding perspective, I totally should have mentioned that. I mentioned that when I talked about the Atlassian Marketplace, that RightStar has an app there. That app is ScanStar for Jira, for Insight, actually. ScanStar is RightStar's barcode scanning solution, which is a mobile device scanning solution that we've had for years, that is integrated now with Jira Service Desk and Insight that way to allow you to scan items directly into that CMDB, initially, from the receiving dock, or to update them as they move through their life cycle between owners and locations, or get decommissioned and that sort of stuff. So that sort of asset barcode scanning functionality is definitely available directly from us, as a matter of fact.
Right, and we've got lots of workflow built into that as well. So,
You bet.
yeah, we're running out of time, so there's just a couple more. Can you mark assets in different categories such as retired, repair, loan, stock? I think that you already showed that then, right?
I did around
Yeah.
statuses. One thing I meant to mention, and again that I left out, you could also archive things. So maybe as things get decommissioned and need to be put somewhere that we need a record of them, we don't want them in our way, an archive schema can be created, and those objects can be moved over to that archive schema to keep that historical data, but then keep it out of your way from people selecting it. You can also just have those fields in Jira ignore certain statuses so that I don't have the option of selecting an item that's decommissioned, for example.
Okay. And then the final question, there is a Jira Cloud app that, is there an asset manager app? So I think that he's referring to Insight there, right? Which is now in the cloud as well, right?
Yep, sure is.
Okay. All right, and you spent some time on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that pretty much wraps things up here. I think we got the questions through. Alan, you got everything through. I think if you go, you probably have one more slide here, and it has a contact RightStar slide.
Sure do.
Right?
I sure do. Thanks
so
much.
I wanted to again thank everybody, and thank you, Alan, for a great job. If you do have any additional questions, you can hop on the web. You can certainly give us a call, and you can send us an email, and we'd certainly like to get back to you. And if you wanted to do something in a little bit more detail, then we can set a demo up for you. Again, there's some interest about barcode scanning, and we can certainly set that up for you, let you try that out or show you a demo. So that will pretty much do it. Again, thanks everybody for your time and attendance. And Alan, great job. Let's go ahead and sign off, and we hope to see you on the next one. Take care, everybody. All right. Have a great rest of the day. Signing off from RightStar. So long.